Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. Jonathan here. And in today's session, we're going to be talking about how to spot the right cryptocurrency. So I'm sure a lot of people, newbies, ang tatanong tungkol dito. And in today's session, pag-uusapan natin siya, of course, with a guest, a good friend of mine, one of the co-founders also of Mosaic Trading Academy, Fermin Barrenechea III.
Hello. Welcome to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching from. And we look forward to sharing insights with you and also new learnings.
Before anything else, if you have questions, let us know in the comment section. And disclaimer lang, anything that we're going to be sharing with you right now are not financial advice. So, at the end of the day, still need to do your own research. And kung hindi pa kayo nakasubscribe here sa channel na to, then please click the subscribe button and that bell button para ma-notify kayo ng aming next video. So for me, one of my first question is, how do you spot the right cryptocurrency given that there are 18,000 plus cryptocurrencies in the crypto market?
Well, Coach, that's a very good question. And I think the very first thing that I would have to look at is, what is the use case? Because when we say use case, theoretically that means the token may problema siyang sinusolusyonan. Diba? Kasi usually that's the reason these tokens come out. Diba? The tokens are meant to address a certain inefficiency in the market. Diba? Kaya gumawa sila ng token on the blockchain. So the first thing I really look at is, saan siya gagamitin? Because that will tell me, unang-una, tama bang kailangan mo pang gamitan ng cryptocurrency? Diba? Kasi dalawa yan. Pwedeng maganda nga yung use case, pero hindi mo naman kailangan ng crypto. Pwede ring maganda yung use case, kailangan mo ng crypto. Better, diba? So it starts with use case. Alamin mo muna, what is the problem that the token is looking to solve? Let's assume nalaman mo na. Ito yung problema na gusto niyang solusyonan. The next question or the follow-up question to that is, okay, I agree with the problem he's trying to solve. Ngayon, gaano kalaki yung market na yan? Diba? Kasi halimbawa, it might be a valid problem, pero baka naman napakaliit ng market for that problem. In which case, may impact rin yan sa future value ng token. Diba? Kasi kung, let's, halimbawa, hypothetical example, meron kang naisip na token pero ang makakagamit lang ay mga, let's say, dentists in Palawan. Halimbawa, it's a valid use case, pero is that sort of market size enough to give it a long-term future? As opposed to, let's say, what if it was a coin for dentists but can be used globally? Mas malaki yung market, diba? So, those two are related. Starts with the use case, because the use case will then give me an idea of how big is the possible market. Let's say certain sites that are good for initial research, CryptoSlate. You look at websites that divide the tokens already into use cases. Diba? If you scroll down to crypto assets, then further down you see sectors.
Hi, here.
Diba? So nakikita mo na pwede mo pa rin himayin yan, but at least at the start, meron ka nang alam mo, if you wanted advertising, if you wanted art, if you wanted insurance, then it tells you what are the tokens in those industries. The other one also would be CoinGecko. Because you look under the tab categories, see, it also gives you different, di ba, ang dami. So at least there, naka-filter na yan. Although, I have to point out, these are not unique categories. No? When I say not unique, you could have a token which fits in more than one category. But at least the fact is there are certain websites which will already give you classifications which will already jumpstart the filtering process.
So you mean you are not going to enter doon sa cryptocurrency if that crypto wala siyang use cases kahit nasabihin natin sikat siya or kilala siya? Because this is what people are, new, particularly mga newbies, this is what they're doing kapag kasikat yung crypto, kapag minamarket online, sobrang hype, they're buying it because they think that they could make money out of it.
That's true. And I'm not saying that's not possible, but I think my approach is because I'm what's called a positional trader. So I don't base it on short-term outlook. I find something which I believe will go up over the long run. So when I say long run, I could wait 2-3 years before I decide to exit. Ganon din yung philosophy ko sa stock market. Kung hindi mo mapaliwanag kung ano yung ginagawa ng stock, bakit mo papasukan? Dahil sinabi ni ganyan? Okay, hindi ko sinasabing hindi pwede gawin. Pwede. Pero rest assured na kung walang fundamental behind that particular token, if there is no valid use case, ano yung susuporta sa kanya? Pag nawala, let's say, yung influencer, biglang nagbago yung ihip ng hangin, sabihin ng influencer, ay, hindi ko na suportado. O di ano mangyayari? If there's nothing behind that token, babagsak yung token. And I think we've seen that, diba? I'm not going to mention any token names here, but we've seen that with certain meme coins. When certain personalities will tweet, aakyat yung value. They make another tweet, babagsak yung value. So, nakikita nyo na it has nothing to do with any fundamental development within the token. It's just based on rumor, news, influencers. So, there's nothing that says hindi ka pwedeng kumita by investing in these tokens. I'm just saying that personally, that's not my approach because I have more of a long-term orientation. So, if I'm going to have a long-term orientation, kailangan may dahilan kung bakit ko pinapasukan. At yung dahilan, hindi pwede dahil sinabi ni ganyan. Kailangan alam ko bakit. Ano nga yung problemang sinusolusyonan niya.
Now, kanina, you've mentioned that you're a positional type of trader. So, what does it mean when you're a positional trader? Gaano ba katagal ka naka-position in any particular cryptocurrencies before ka nag-exit doon sa crypto na yun?
Usually, ang gagawin ko, so assuming tama ang basa ko, maganda yung use case niya, I think may potential, meron akong entry price, usually ang gagawin ko, pag nag-triple na yung presyo, I will sell 1/3. Okay? Bakit 1/3? Kasi kung nag-triple na yan, nabawi mo na yung puhunan mo. Again, that's not cast in stone. Depende, I might change it to 1/4. But the idea there is trying to recover your principal muna. And then, since meron ka pang natitirang 2/3, yan ang pwede mo nang let it ride. Kasi kumbaga, bakit? Technically, wala ka ng kaba. Kasi nabawi mo na yung puhunan mo eh.
A good strategy, especially if, let's say, malaki-laki yung nilagay mo, di ba? So, better if you could pull out that capital together with the konting profit, then yung iba, ihayaan mo na lang siya. If you think that value still goes up or go up in the future, then at least may kita ka pa rin doon. Now, Fermin, kapag ba bumibili ka ng cryptocurrencies, meron ka bang tinitignan na exit or amount or sabihin natin a profit percentage kapag ka mag-exit ka on that particular token? Let's say, bibili lang ako kapag ka magta-10x to or 20x or 50x?
No, that's a valid question. I think it goes back to first use case. No? Now, once you have the use case, that gives you an idea of the size of the market. Kung ang feeling mo, halimbawa, I use as an example, no? Let's say ang pinasukan mo is something that is in the cellular phone industry and feeling mo that it's going to continue to grow by leaps and bounds over the next 5 to 10 years. And you have another token na halimbawa, it is in the gaming industry, which may have bigger potential than the mobile phone industry. So, you could be in two positions at the same time, but each one will have a different outlook. So, it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all na, kailangan ang hinahanap ko lang is 5x. Depending on ano yung pinasukan mo, a 5x might be easy for one, might not be as easy for another one. But the other thing that I also look at, and I think you've talked about this before, Coach, in some of your previous sessions, is titingnan ko what was the previous all-time high. Di ba? Kasi nagkaroon ng correction eh. So let's say if it's, halimbawa, if it is 90% down from the previous all-time high, then I would at the very least expect it will revisit the all-time high, if not exceed. So isipin mo, if you were able to get a token at 90% from its all-time high, for that to go back to the all-time high, you're looking at maybe 9, 10x.
Now, Fermin, can you share maybe some examples, some tokens na pinasukan mo, then ano yung mga exit price mo and percentage or naging profit mo dun sa mga tokens na to?
Yeah, I can share one. But again, I think as Coach Jonathan mentioned at the start of the broadcast, this is not financial advice because
Correct.
certainly when I entered it, I was able to enter it earlier. Kasi maaga ko napasukan, di ba? So, whereas if you were to try and enter it now, it might not give you the same result. Past results are never a guarantee of future results, and nothing we say during this broadcast is to be taken as financial advice, and you're always encouraged to do your own research. So I'll give you an example. I entered this token called DENT. It's a token which looks to sort of create a marketplace for unused data so that when you travel from one country to another, diba, you don't need to keep on switching providers. That it's more technical than that, but that's a summary of what it does. Now, I entered that token January of 2020. Pinasukan ko 0.00016.
And it's now at 0.0026.
I exited a portion. I sold at 0.016.
Oh, nice. That's huge. That's more than 1,000%.
Dinag-correct. O di, okay lang sa akin kasi nabawi ko na yung puhunan ko. So ngayon, nag-aantay ulit ako. Because I believe long-term prospects for the token are still good. Anything to do with data, telecom, I still think there's a good outlook for that. Again, you have to do your own research because I think it has good potential. Somebody else may have a totally different view. So it's not financial advice. You're always told to do your own research. Why? Because ultimately it's your money. You have to be the one to make the decision whether to buy or sell. You cannot base it on, let's say, what Coach Jonathan says, what I say. We're here to provide information on possibilities. What happens next is really up to you. You've got to do your own research because why? To begin with, one of the questions that Coach Jonathan asked earlier, profit targets. A profit target for me would be different from what Coach Jonathan has and what the viewers might have. I can tell you, we could all be looking at exactly the same chart. We could all even enter at exactly the same price. But it is highly unlikely that we will all exit at the same price. Why? Because we all have different objectives.
So, to summarize the session, if someone would like to enter the crypto space or invest to a certain cryptocurrency, ano yung step-by-step process na pwede mong ibigay sa mga nagsisimula as in yun doon sa mga zero knowledge?
So, one, you start now with look at the use case. Now, once you've identified, so let's say, ito na yung use case na gusto mo. Halimbawa, let's say, insurance. Yun ang use case na gusto mo. Tapos, when you see in the use case, nga rin, makikita mo, may mga halimbawa lang, 50 tokens. Now, what you're gonna need to do is further research. Babasahin mo yung white paper. Titingnan mo, ano ba yung mga milestones nila or the targets that they set and were they able to meet the targets. If they miss the target, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad investment. But it gives you reason to doubt also or to ask more questions. If they miss these targets, what's the chance that they're going to hit the other targets? Diba? It's all about ano lang naman eh. It's all about the certainty or consistency. If they're consistently able to hit the targets, then that gives you a greater degree of confidence na yung mga further projects nila in the pipeline, magagampanan nila.
Correct.
So you look at the white paper because that tells you what are the targets that they've set for the company in terms of milestones to achieve. Siyempre, titingnan mo rin, management team. What other projects have they been involved with before? You also look at tokenomics. When I say tokenomics, for example, one ano lang, quick and dirty. You would look at maximum supply. Halimbawa, if something is in the billions or even trillions of supply, all things being equal, medyo mahirap na yung presyo ng token na yan maging gaya ng presyo ng Bitcoin, di ba? Because Bitcoin naman has 21 million lang, di ba? So, these are things that you also need to look at because it does not necessarily follow na, let's say, a token which is less than 1 cent will become $100,000. Diba? I think that's one of the things also that newbies have to understand. Not every token can become as valuable as Bitcoin. But in the same manner, it doesn't need to be. If you're coming from a much lower price point anyway, you don't need to go to 100,000. Diba? If you're coming from 1 cent and you go to, let's say from 1 cent you go to $1, that's already 100x. You don't need to go to $10,000. From 1 cent to $1, that's already life-changing money if you put a lot of money in it, diba? So yun, to recap, I hope that helps. You look first at the use case, look at the white paper, look at the management team.